Hey everybody, Adam and Andrew here with It Takes Two Takes. Here to talk about, Adam, we could say chapter 10 of The Mandalorian, or you could say episode 2 of season 2 of The Mandalorian, but chapter 10 nonetheless. Last week's episode, the premiere was really, really good, but what I enjoy about this series, and it's certainly not the first to do it, is they find a way to make a completely different vibe, a completely different story to where you're not comparing it to the prior episode. It's not having to live up to what came before it. And in this case, we absolutely have that. We went from what I felt like was a very Western influenced episode with chapter 9, episode 1, into a bit of a horror experience. But before we got there, I want to call out the fact that I really enjoyed that the first real conflict that we experienced in this episode is none other than X-Wings. I thought that was cool to flip it around.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd say the first real conflict, because they had a conflict on Tatooine that destroyed his speeder, right?
You're right. That's true.
Which I think was, I feel like that was just there to say, look, there's still danger for Baby Yoda and everything like that, because, they last episode really didn't kind of highlight the danger that Baby Yoda is still kind of in. So I felt like that was just kind of there to kind of highlight that still. I don't know that scene really did anything, at least so far, other than say there's still dangers out there. They still have to watch their back.
I think it also adds to the fact that things are not going well for him in this episode. He crashes a speeder bike. He crashes the Razor Crest. And on different planets in one episode, he crashes his primary mode of transportation. So I feel like it maybe, if nothing else, added to that being a compounded issue for him.
When I saw the speeder thing happen, I thought at some point maybe Boba Fett would show up because, hey, he's got my armor and I could get my armor back or something, So
you have to imagine Boba Fett knew about the Marshal having it, though.
I don't know what he knew or didn't know, but since he didn't encounter him in the beginning of this episode, and I thought that was the reason why we didn't see him leave the planet at the end of last episode, was that maybe they weren't done with Boba Fett. He leaves the planet, so that means he's got to come back to Tatooine at some point if they're going to have an encounter between him and Boba Fett. I did think it was neat having the X-Wings show up, and we get a little bit of a callback to last season with the whole prison break episode. Yeah. And I also thought it was neat how he's trying to dodge like any indication of who he is type of deal. Like, right. I need a transponder? Well, yeah, I'll get on that. Thanks. I appreciate the heads up. And then it's like, we need a ping. Wait, what? I can't, that doesn't seem to be working. All right, well, you'll have to follow us. Oh, wait, here it is. It's working now. I mean, It definitely shows that he's been trying to hide who he is.
Yeah, it wasn't space pirates. It wasn't warlords. It was X-Wings that were. I mean, it was for essentially what was the equivalent of a broken tail light, but escalated quickly.
And I want to talk about this passenger for just a second, because there's one thing about this passenger that kind of got under my skin. Here's a passenger who figured out how to hack into a droid head in order to use its voice box.
Right.
But doesn't help out at all with repairing the ship.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I thought that was actually a neat moment, the translation portion of that, where she had kind of hacked into this droid and been able to have this conversation with Mando. But you're absolutely right. Now, is this a distressed mother? Perhaps. But if you're so distressed, how are you letting this baby, this child, eat your eggs and not even be able to keep track of them? That bothered me. This isn't your parents' liquor cabinet where you're just diluting the bottles of liquor and hoping they won't notice. Like, I would think that this frog woman would notice that there were eggs missing, but it was inconsequential apparently at the time. So, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Especially if it's the last of your kind.
Be on the lookout in 2021 for a Funko Pop of Baby Yoda eating an egg.
Oh my God. He ate so many eggs. There were times where I was laughing at it because in that very moment, the physicality of it, the sort of slapsticky sort of moment of this goofy moment of this baby just popping eggs, similar to how he's eating frogs in season 1 and so on and so forth. And then there were also moments where I'm like, this is kind of dark. Like, this is truly the end of the lineage of this character, and it's just flippantly eating these eggs, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing at this.
So I feel like it also part of the reason they did the whole egg eating thing was to set up the trouble that was going to end up happening, right? Because when he couldn't eat the eggs out of the hot spring bath, he goes looking for another snack.
And he was taught a lesson very quickly. I should hope.
I don't know if he learned that lesson or not. We'll find out in future episodes. But
I mean, he was still popping eggs afterwards, so maybe he didn't.
Kids don't always learn the lessons that way, so as long as they get away with it, I don't think he's going to return back to this ice planet anytime in the near future.
I don't know what that ice planet was actually called. Now that I think about it, it must not have been significant, or I feel like I would have caught on to it. But I'm going to call it Australia because the level of spiders that were attacking those people, it might as well have been. It was. Anybody that doesn't like, if you don't like spiders, this is going to be troublesome for you this episode.
I felt like some of it was reminiscent when they're running from the spiders of the second Harry Potter film, The Chamber of Secrets.
It reminded me of that. It reminded me a little bit of Lord of the Rings. It reminded me of anyone that's ever played Star Wars: The Fallen Order, the video game, the more recent Star Wars video game. Anyone that has experienced the white spiders that attack you in that, this will trigger that trauma. Very, very similar conflict. So what I like about this series is the fact that they bring in different directors. And anyone that's familiar with the first season and went and watched the Star Wars Gallery documentary and saw all the familiar faces that were directing these episodes know the recurring cast in terms of directors. But this time around, we actually had Peyton Reed, who I just want to mention, he's directed the Ant-Man franchise up to this point. He's also working towards Ant-Man 3 as well. So I was very curious to see who directed it when I was seeing some sequences in this episode. Particularly the one that stood out to me was I really enjoyed the X-Wings chasing down the Razor Crests through the trenches of this ice planet. I thought it was the way it was shot was very, they'd done their homework. It was very reminiscent of everything from, of course, the original trilogy and even in the sequel trilogy, which had pulled the same influence. But those sorts of things I thought were very cool, and it made me look it up, and I wanted to mention it because I thought it was interesting that they brought in someone new, a newcomer for this series. I don't know if they'll bring him back, but
I do think it's neat that they got maybe they're going to go with a whole nother different set of directors and possibly not use any of the ones from the first season. We'll have to see how the rest of them go. But yeah, I think it's neat that they bring in these kind of like guest directors to do these episodes. I noticed, though, that so far we're 2 episodes in and Baby Yoda has not used the Force at all.
I was waiting for that in this episode. I was waiting for that, honestly, in the first one to some degree with the Crate Dragon. But in this one especially, I'm like...
With the dude with the knife... Right, with the dude with the knife, he could have just Force choked that dude. We know he can do it.
I don't know if it's a level of awareness or true control over what it's doing, or it's a moment of pure panic. Maybe he didn't understand that it wasn't a fight or flight moment for Baby Yoda. I don't know, but whatever. He it doesn't matter. He's just eating those eggs, man. Like, that's life. Like,
the first episode, there was a few Baby Yoda moments, but I felt like they definitely didn't highlight him very much in the first episode. Second episode highlighted a lot. Like, we're going to make up for the lack of Baby Yoda in the first episode and just inundate it within the second episode. Like I said, other than the callback to the prison episode, a bunch of Baby Yoda, it was a cool episode, but I don't know that I had to see how this episode plays into the rest of the storyline. I worry that it might have just been here's a fun excursion and not really play into the larger, other than drawing out him finding more Mandalorians, right? Just here's an episode where we're going to draw out him finding more Mandalorians. Yeah. It felt like, at least for me, like a filler episode, but then again, could be wrong. There could be a callback to it, the events in it at a later point.
That's it. This is a good Mandalorian episode. This is a good Star Wars entry from a series standpoint. We enjoy it. We gave our thoughts. Tell us what you think. Comment. I'm going to pin a comment asking you to say something. So, the 30 to 40 of you that are going to end up viewing this thing, if you could just say something, would be nice.
I know lately we've mainly been covering Warrior and Mandalorian. If there's a particular new movie or something along those lines that we haven't touched on, let us know if you'd like to see our review on it. We're open to suggestions.